Morning, Crossroads students. I hope you guys are all doing super well whenever you're watching this. Today, I want to jump into the Old Testament and talk about someone that you might not have ever heard of in the Bible, but her name is Abigail. Now, Abigail was a person in a bit of a rough situation. She was married to this man named Nabal, and Nabal was a bit of a rough character, if you will. That's a kind of a nice way of putting it. You can go to 1 Samuel 25 and read all about who Nabal was. But he was a bit of a rough guy. Wasn't a very nice guy. And Abigail was married to Nabal. And so she was kind of in a little bit of a rough situation because Abigail was actually a pretty cool person. And one day, David came up to a field, and this is when David was running for his life from Saul, who was trying to kill him. And David and his 600 mighty men found this field where there were a lot of shepherds and sheep, and so they decided that that's where they would make camp and just kind of hang out, and they'd just watch over the sheep and the shepherds that were there and kind of give them a little bit of protection. And these shepherds and sheep happened to be Nabal's, Abigail's husband. And as was customary back then, when David was kind of ready to move on with his men, he sent 10 men to Nabal, and they said, "Hey, listen, we watched your sheep and your shepherds in the field, and nothing went missing, and the sheep are good, the shepherds are healthy. Can you give us some kind of compensation just for keeping an eye on your sheep?" And this was a very customary thing to do back then. This was not an outrageous request that David made. And Nabal got really, really insulting and really, really rude. And he actually said no. He's like, "David who? I don't know this David guy." And he's like, "Absolutely not." He's like, "You know what? Why don't you just go back to David and get out of here? I don't know who you guys are." And so they left. And they got back and they told David everything that just happened. And David got really, really upset. And he said, "You know what? 400 of you put on your swords, and the rest of you stay here and watch our food and supplies. But the rest of you, we're going. 400, we're going to go, and we are going to take out Nabal." And this was not the best reaction to have. I'll admit, this was a bad reaction. David lost his temper. He was in kind of a situation where he lost his temper and shouldn't have been doing what he was doing. But he was riding after Nabal. Nabal was also kind of a jerk, and he should not have said what he said. He should have done what was customary and given David some food and supplies for the road. That would have been the right thing to do. And in the middle of these two men is Abigail. Now, Abigail, like I said before, is just in a rough situation because now she's at the place where David is coming to kill her family and her servants and everyone. And Nabal is really upset with David, and he's not going to have anything to do with David. And a servant comes to Abigail, and that servant says, "Hey, listen, we kind of have a problem here." And that problem is that you're about to be pulverized by David. And so she said, "Okay, you know what? Here's what we're going to do." And she told the servant to go get as much food and some wineskins and stuff and get some stuff ready to bring to David. And she was going to meet him halfway. Now, if I were her, I would have just left. That would have been my reaction. I would have been like, "You know what? I'm getting out of here before this gets any worse. I'm done. I'm out of here." Because I imagine that she would have felt so lonely up to this point already. Being married to someone who was a jerk and just not very nice to people, she probably felt like she was in a rough situation. And maybe you feel that way too in life. Maybe sometimes in life you feel like you're just in between two things all the time. Maybe it's you're in between parents and teachers, and you just like both of them are kind of just on you and you don't really know what to do. Or maybe you're in between other things. Maybe your parents are separated and you feel like you're constantly just kind of in between your parents. And maybe you kind of can put yourself in Abigail's shoes and kind of feel like you're in that bad place too. But you know what's crazy is Abigail didn't let that situation dictate her reaction. Abigail did the right thing, and she was like, "You know what? David did us a favor. I'm going to go give him what he needs and try and make up for what Nabal is doing." And so she went to David, and David actually stopped and accepted what she gave him. And he said, "Listen, we're not going after Nabal anymore." And you know what's crazy is because of Abigail's faithfulness and because of Abigail's integrity And because Abigail did the right thing, David left and Nabal got to live. But not only that, here's what's crazy. Here's what's crazy. Not only did she save a lot of people from a bad situation, 10 days after this all happened, Nabal, the Bible says, Nabal died. And when Nabal died, David came back and married Abigail. And because of her integrity, because of her faithfulness, because she did the right thing, she was removed from her situation and put in a much better situation. And I just want to encourage you, maybe you're in a place right now where you feel like you have no options, where you feel like maybe the best thing to do is just run. I want to encourage you to do the right thing, and don't let your circumstances define your reaction. Don't let your circumstances define what you do. Let your integrity define what you do. Let your integrity define who you are, and do the right thing. And in the end, God will bless it, God will fight for you, and God will be there for you. If you want to know more about Nabal and Abigail and who Abigail was later on and the role she played, I would love to talk more with you about it. And you can reach out to me by calling or texting or just sending me an email, or reach out to anyone here at Crossroads, because we're here for you and we love you and we want to do this with you. So with that being said, I'll leave you guys. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and we'll see you soon.